You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P. Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the USA Paralympian Paro snowboarder, Zach Miller. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into competing in snowboarding?
I kind of grew up in the hospital with the treatment that I needed to have for my disability, and so being there constantly, working on therapy, all the different tests to make sure that I was developing properly with my cerebral palsy. My doctors kind of picked up that I was very independent, when they asked me to push back towards them with my legs, I would grip the table and give it everything. And so, they came to my mom and they just said, "You need to get this kid in sports. You need to get him outside, letting some energy out." And she actually responded with, I don't know what more I could be doing. He's doing all the extracurriculars at school. He's constantly playing with his bigger brother. I don't even know what other sports are out there that he hasn't done yet. And they said, well, we have a sports program that Children's Hospital has for any of the people receiving full time treatment there. And so if you want, this week they're actually we'll put them on a bus and drive them up to Winter Park, teach them how to ski. And my mom was like, well, he's never skied before, so I guess he could try that. All right, sounds good. So I hopped aboard this bus of a bunch of other kids that had, their own disabilities or treatments, and rode up to Winter Park and got my first set of rental skis. And I ended up having so much fun that day that when I came back and got into the car, I was already passed out by the time my mom had started it. And so she was like, all right, something about the mountains and just being on snow, this kid clearly loves. And sure enough, when I woke back up, I couldn't shut up about, Mom, I have to do that again. That was so much fun. When can we go next? When are they doing that again? And so I started skiing with their program, just kind of for fun. And I did that for 2 years until one day I got aboard the chairlift and we were headed up the mountain and I saw this pack of snowboarders just riding down with each other. And they were, they're spraying each other. They were doing all these different tricks and stuff. And they were just having so much fun that I turned to my instructor and I said, I have to try that. And they said, okay, it's not as easy to learn as skiing. It's a little bit harder with the balance and everything. That might be a challenge for you, but hey, like let's figure it out. So we went back down to the bottom and I stepped on a snowboard for the first time and I have never looked back. I fell in love with it immediately. I loved the feeling. I loved the freedom that it had. And one of the biggest things for me was, when you're out there on the mountain, you're snowboarding, you're wearing gear head to toe, so you're completely covered. Unless somebody knows who you are and what your gear looks like and your riding style and everything, nobody's going to be able to tell who you are on the mountain. And I liked that. I liked that sense of anonymity to it, the freedom that it had, that I could just go out and snowboard. It wasn't, there's Zach, the disabled kid, making turns down the hill. Oh, it looks like he's doing great. It was, oh wow, look at that kid. You can see the smile through his face mask. He's having a blast and he's going as fast as he can. That kid's like ripping. And that's what I just loved about it. And so I did that with their program again for another 2 years, just kind of doing it for fun and taking it all in and learning whatever I could. And then that's when I found out that they were starting this racing discipline, and then that's when I found out about the Paralympics. I didn't even know what they were. I only knew that there was something called the Olympics, that it happens every 4 years. You got to be, one of the best, and there's all these different sports to it. And I'd seen a border cross before. But then all of a sudden I found out that there's this separate competition called the Paralympics that takes place directly after the Olympics. That's for athletes like myself, athletes with physical disabilities. And rumor has it that for the 2014 Paralympics in Sochi, they're going to add snowboarding. So you should start training. And so they just got me connected with this team of 3 athletes. And as soon as I tell you who they are, you'll recognize them. First one's Keith Gable. Second one's Evan Strong. And the third one is Mike Shea. You might also recognize them as the podium in Sochi at during 2014. And so those guys were the first guys that I got to start riding with and racing with. And they taught me, all the basics. basics of what racing is. And then I got to watch them go overseas, over to Russia, win 3 Paralympic medals, sweep the men's category, and then come home. And it was so cool. I mean, that was when I was like, all right, this is what I want to do.
What was that like getting involved in para sports and getting particularly involved on the para snowboarding side?
It was all about community. Like I said, I had no idea that para snowboarding even existed, and at the time, it was also very new too. So there was a lot of people that didn't know it existed. But because I was out there on snow and I was, meeting people that were, ski racing at the time, they were the ones who told me that they're putting together this snowboard team. And apparently, it's going to be competitive, and they're starting a World Cup circuit and all this stuff. And so it was just getting connected. It was going out there and being a part of it, and finding a passion in snowboarding that then led to me meeting other people with the same passion. And now I'm a part of this huge community of hundreds of athletes, and it's the coolest thing now to be a part of it, to see how far it's come, and to have gotten involved in it so early. It was awesome.
How was your training like preparing for your first Paralympics to go to Beijing in 2008?
So for me, I started snowboarding when I was 9, and then I started competing when I was 11. Just doing local races, nothing crazy. Once I found out that they were adding para snowboarding to the Paralympics in Sochi in 2014, that was when I realized that I really wanted to be there. And the training is wild. It's kind of all consuming. I've been doing it every day since then, since I was 11, and I've loved every minute of it. But it's taken a lot of dedication. It's taken a lot of time. It's taken a lot of effort. It's also taken a lot of money. And it was important for me to get connected with the right people early on in my career, so that way they could give, they could share the opportunities with me, and they could have the knowledge of the different grants that I could reach out to for, so I could buy myself new snowboards that would actually go fast, and get off of rental snowboards, stuff like that. And so the training just kind of became a way of life, and I loved that about it. I loved the lifestyle that came with waking up super early, being, the first chair up, and then just riding super hard the rest of the day, going home, getting in the gym, immediately getting protein after that, eating tons of food, right? Eating the right food too, and then getting good sleep and focusing on recovery so that I could do the same thing again the next day. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about my body. It taught me a lot about my disability, and how to deal with it. Everybody has different hardships that come with their disability, different obstacles, right? And when you're training every day and trying to push your limits and trying to figure out what you can and can't do, you learn how to better take care of yourself. So not only did I, become a better athlete, I started to become a better person. I started traveling the world and seeing different cultures and meeting all these people, like I said, that have been a part of this community. And so the training is pretty much nothing but a blessing. In my opinion, I'm so happy that I've kind of gotten this as my job, because they say you should love what you do, and I love every minute of it. It gets hard. There are times when you have injuries. There are times when you don't do well in competitions, and it's rough. You go through some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows during competitions, and even just through training. You have these little moments where you break through and you finally, you land a 360, or you finally figure out how to like really carve a toe edge. And it's just all those moments that keep me going.
How was that feeling like the first time you made the Paralympic team and you got to put on your Team USA gear with the Argonaut symbols on it?
Oh man, that was one of the best days of my life. When we were still trying to sort out all the details for the Paralympics, I remember sitting in on a team meeting, and our team manager at the time, he said, "So I have some good news. It has to do with our team gear in Beijing." And we were all like, we already knew what he was going to say. And he goes, "We're going to get the same Volcom gear as the able-bodied U.S. team. So you guys will have, the jackets, you'll have the pants, you'll have that blazer that comes with it, and the tie." And so I got so hyped for that, because the gear was so cool. It was just so epic to see that on TV and see like all these other athletes I looked up to, Mick Deerdorf, Nick Baumgartner, all these guys like rocking this gear, and then knowing I was going to get it myself. I remember that day that we were in our hotel in LA getting ready to drive to the airport. And the day before, our team manager hits us up and says, "Your gear's, waiting for you downstairs. Come put it on. Make sure everything fits." And I have never wanted an elevator to go faster in my entire life. Got downstairs as fast as I could, threw on the jacket, and was like, it was a special moment for me because it was like, I'm not putting this jacket on because I'm trying someone else's jacket. I'm not putting this jacket on because, I bought it at a store. I'm putting this jacket on because I earned it. And, looking down and seeing like the stars and stripes on the right, the right arm and everything, and seeing United States of America along the zipper, it was amazing because it was like, dude, I did it. Look at that. Like, this is my jacket. It's so cool. There's a lot of pride that came with it. And we were messing with each other, complimenting each other. It's like, "Ooh, well, you look very nice in that blazer, sir." And it's like, "Oh yeah, you look pretty good in it too." And it's like, "Yeah, this look really works on you, man." And it was definitely a memory that I'll have for a long time.
Of course, the first time going to Beijing, what was it like going down the slopes of Beijing?
It was crazy. The conditions that were wild. You heard all about the Olympics and the conditions that they had. People just like almost freezing to death. And then by the time we got there, the weather had changed so much that we were like almost having a heat stroke. And so it was crazy because you had to adapt. And the snow was really, it had this interesting texture to it. It was pretty much all man made, and so it felt like nothing I've ever felt before. But it was fast, which was good. And so being there, riding on the slopes, I'll still always remember being at the top of our border cross course. It was high enough on the mountain there in the Genting Snow Park that if you actually looked off into the distance over the hills, you could see small sections of the Great Wall of China peeking up over the hill crests, and just standing there and being like, dude, you're in China, you're at the games. There's your course right there. The Great Wall of China over there. That was a once in a lifetime experience for sure.
Of course, after your first Paralympics, what was it like preparing for your second Paralympics?
So I've only been to one Paralympics. I came super close to making the Paralympics in South Korea. I was invited for the test event, and I missed making the team for South Korea by 4/100ths of a second, which, I mean, that's like, I don't know if you even blink that fast. That's down to nothing. That's like, to me, that's what makes racing so exciting. Of course, it was heartbreaking for me at the time. I was 18. I wanted to prove everything, and to miss it by that much, by like 50 points, was just, I remember being so frustrated. But then when I made it to Beijing, it was like, all right, you know what? It's about time. Like, I wasn't one of the athletes that was like, that just kind of found themselves there, at the Paralympics and kind of struggling to believe it. I had waited for that opportunity forever. I mean, I had put so much into that to get there, that once I was there, I was just soaking all of it in, because I was like, dude, this is it. You finally made it. You are a Paralympian. And that was one of the best feelings I think life will ever give to me.
What was that moment like, as you said, when you got to sunk it in and you got to realize, okay, I am a Paralympian now?
It was like a breath of fresh air. It was like this weight lifted off my shoulders, and I had finally done it. It's a dream that I had had since I was so young, and I've always wanted to be on a world stage like that, and to do it in snowboarding after putting all the training that I did into it, and all that time and effort, to finally be standing there and being like, I'm a Paralympian, and I always will be. No matter what happens from this point on, nobody can take that away from me. That is what I am. It's what I've worked for, and to realize that and know that I achieved it. I could like finally, I don't know. It's like, it's almost like words can't really explain it, but it's just like, I don't know if there's ever anything that can compare to that kind of feeling, because of the amount of work and time that it takes. But then to realize that it's true is just liberating.
What was that feeling like, going down the slopes and having Canada and other countries next to you while going down the slopes?
That is one of my favorite parts about my career and what I do and Paralympic snowboarding, is that I would actually consider all those people to be family, in my opinion, not even friends. Those people, I've gotten to meet and grow relationships with over the years, and get to know more about them and their personal lives, and how they started snowboarding as well, and what it took for them to get to their national team level, and then to start competing in World Cups, and then to make it to the games where we're all at. And I remember it's a small thing that we do at every competition and before every race, but at the games it meant that much more to me. With me and a lot of my competitors, when we get into the gates and we're getting ready to drop, because we know that at the end of the day, no matter who crosses the finish line first, we're gonna be friends and we're gonna get to like spend some quality time together, celebrating the victories and stuff at the end of the day. We always just reach over the handlebars, like over the bars there, and just give each other a fist bump, and we just say "see you at the bottom." It was extra special for me in that moment because I'm in China. I'm at the Paralympic Games. If anything, this is the one time where it would be acceptable to be kind of focused on your own lane and not being super friendly. You're here to win. You're here to do your job. You're here to work hard. You're here to beat the guy next to you. And yet still I just look over to my competitors and I'm like, hey, good luck, I'll see you at the bottom, and I give them a fist bump. And then to then grab the start handles after that and be like, you know what, that's the only thing that matters. Is I'm going to give this run everything. This run I've worked so hard for. I'm here with my competitors, but my friends and my family, and so those people mean everything to me. Without those people, my sport would not be near as much fun as it is for me.
While at the Paralympic Village, was there anybody that you saw that you were like, oh my God, I watched growing up on TV?
So yeah, it was interesting. We were kind of separated up into three different Paralympic villages, and I was in the Zhangjiakou village. So there were a lot of there were the snowboarders there, and then there were the what's it called, the Nordic skiing athletes there. That was our village. And so it was cool to look around and see some of the other, Team USA legends, just kind of eating next to them, and walking down the street to go back to the Team USA, buildings with them. And so to be sharing kind of that same space was really cool, because I've followed their sports and stuff like that as well, and then to just be alongside them, I think was really cool, because a lot of those athletes, like I'm here. Let's see. I'm blanking on her name. She's one of our U.S. team Nordic skiers, and she's won like so many gold medals. I know her really well. I'm just blanking on her name. I'm blanking. Anyways, to be there with them, I thought was really cool. And then one of the things that was really interesting too about our village is in the center area they had this gigantic screen that was playing highlights from the Olympics during the time that we were there. And so I remember walking to one of the meals one day and looking down at that screen and seeing the replay of the moment where Nick Baumgartner won the gold medal in the team event with now I'm just blanking on everybody's names. My memory is so terrible. I have to work on names for sure. I got to witness the gold medal run that our able-bodied US team did in border cross and watch them win it. And I just remember that putting a lot of fire underneath me and behind me to then go and do my best on snow, because those people are my teammates and I'm representing the same thing that they are, and I'm about to go to the same area that they were and compete on pretty much the same course. And it was just cool to see all of that going on at the same time.
Of course, being a first time Paralympian, were there anybody on your team that you got advice from, any of your veteran players?
Yeah. So there are some people on the team that are still there that were a part of the Sochi Paralympic team, athletes like Brenna Huckabee and Keith Gable. And so to be, traveling the world and sharing meals with them, even today and will be next week as we are preparing to leave for a World Cup in Canada. It's been really cool to now be peers and teammates with them, because like I said, I got to be introduced to the sport by Mike Shea and Keith Gable and watch them go off and win the first set of Paralympic medals in Sochi, and then to be alongside Keith and Evan going into the Paralympic Games in Beijing. It was special for me because it was like I've earned my place next to them, which is cool because you spend so much time looking up to them, and all of a sudden you're going with them to the Paralympics, and you're about to do the same thing that you've watched them go and do. And so that's definitely very cool when you get to, you get to grow up having them come back and tell you about what it's like, but then to get on the plane with them is a special thing to be like, all right, cool, like let's go do this. I've watched you do it long enough. Now I want to be a part of it, you know.
How does it feel to have Paralympian behind your last name and add PLY?
It feels really good to put that behind my name or see it on like new business cards that I ordered for myself. It feels like, you see your name your entire life. You put your name in a blank on every test, all the way from elementary school to high school to college papers. You see that name, you type it out, you look at it, you submit it, and then to now type it out in an email and finish with comma space capital PLY and then look at that on the screen. It's like, that's me. Like, that's part of my name now. That is my title. That is something that I've accomplished, and it makes me feel legit.
What does it mean to be a U.S. snowboarder?
It means hard work. It means pride. It means making sacrifices and being passionate. The U.S. team is definitely one of the harder international competitive teams to get on. There's a lot of athletes that are training for spots on our team, and there's a lot that comes with being on the team that a lot of people want. The benefits of traveling, being a part of that team, having access to the resources and everything. And so when you get to put on that jacket and have the U.S. Paralympic snowboard logo on your chest, it means that you're a representative of what our sport means and what our country is, and it's something that I'm proud to wear every day.
How's it like obviously getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
It's cool. I don't have that many fans, but because I haven't been around as long as some of the other veterans. But when I do meet someone, that knows who I am or that reaches out to me, on a platform like Instagram, and they're like, "Hey, I was just wondering if you could help me with my snowboard setup." It's really cool to be able to interact with them and hear more about their story and why they've been following snowboarding and why they want to be a part of it, and then to give them some advice or just some words of encouragement is big. I didn't really think I would have fans and now to be meeting all these people, even some of my again, like going back to our competitors being like friends and almost family. Some of my competitors are my fans and vice versa. Like you see them and you're like, hey, it's so good to see you. How have you been? What have you been up to? And we're cheering for each other at the bottom of courses and stuff like that. So it's just cool to have that relationship, and to be able to share those experiences and interactions with other people.
What has it been like obviously getting to compete alongside some of your teammates like Brianna, Mike Myers, and Tyler?
It's cool to compete against them because to compete against them and then to compete with them and travel with them, because obviously they know the ropes. And like I said, when I was just starting out, I watched them form what is the U.S. Paralympic snowboard team now, and I wanted to be a part of it, and to now be there and talking with them, as peers, as friends, as teammates, is unique and special because I know what they've done, and they're not super cocky about it either. Like, you got Brenna Huckabee, who is a multi-time Paralympic medalist, gold medalist even, and every once in a while we just hang out. We go grab some food together with some of our other teammates, and we just hang out as friends. So to have that kind of close relationship with them is really cool.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to put on your Paralympic ring and have the Argonaut symbol and the US on it?
So I got the ring right here because it goes with me everywhere, and I have wanted this ring for a really long time because, again, just watching all the other athletes on the U.S. team go to the games and then come back and show me their medals and show me their rings and stuff. It's not everybody gets to bring back a medal. That's what we all want. But if you make it there, you get this ring. And I always told myself that one day I was going to have one. One day I was going to get a ring, and it was going to have my name on it, which it does, and my sport. And I knew what color it was going to be. I know a lot of people like to get the gold rings, but I already knew I was going to get this white gold because I've always loved the way that they look, and to have the badge on the front with the U.S. flag, Paralympic Agitos, and then United States Paralympic Team, with diamonds separating them. I've never had rings before. I've never owned rings. I've never wanted to own rings. This is the only piece of jewelry that I've ever wanted and always wear, because of what it means to me. It means that you did it and you went there and you got to be a part of it. And it's a little piece that I get to carry around with me of that, to remind myself with every day. So I love it.
Who are some of the influential people in your career that have shaped you into the snowboarder that you are today?
That is a great question because it's probably one of the most important things that I think you could ever get to know about someone is who were the people who really played the biggest roles in getting them to where they are. I don't think there's ever been a story of any one athlete that's done, become a legend or accomplished some great feat on their own. It's always a team effort. There's always multiple, cogs in that system that get you to where you end up. And for me, it was no different. The first and I think most influential person was my mom because she was there for me since day one. She was there to support me, to push me, to make sure I was getting my therapy done, to make sure I was stretching enough, to make sure I was taking care of myself. I wasn't pushing too hard, to make sure I was eating enough, all that extra stuff. She has been there for me from the beginning, and to still have her, in my corner pushing me just as hard, it's a huge deal. And then the other person I would say that's pretty much tied is my developmental coach, Daniel Gale. When he first met me, he came up to me, told me a joke, and he gave me a patch to his development team. And he said, if you're ever looking for a team to train with, we've put a lot of different athletes on the U.S. team. We have a great program over in Copper Mountain, and I think you should come check us out sometime. And I will never forget that interaction because I had no idea who that man was or why he just gave me this weird patch. I didn't know what to think about it. I was kind of lost. And now he's become pretty much my all-time best friend on top of my mentor and coach and practically adopted father. He just picked me up under his wing and was like, I'm going to show you the world and teach you everything you need to know. And he taught me to snowboard, but he also taught me what it means to be an athlete. I think it's an important distinction to make between someone who's athletic and someone who is an athlete. Someone who's athletic, they're strong, they're nimble, they can do cool stuff, maybe even a backflip here and there. They're talented physically. But in my opinion, what makes someone an athlete is the way that they hold themselves, the way that they carry themselves, the way that they represent themselves, their sport, and their team, and do it in a way that brings respect to them, and that pushes what they do forward. And he taught me how to do just that.
What has it been like, obviously, living out your Paralympic dream?
It's been great, man. It's been pretty great. I've worked for it for a long time. It's been the biggest goal of mine to make it to the Paralympics and be a part of it and to live it out. There's moments where you catch yourself, and you take a step back and you look at your surroundings, and you just kind of get to take in how far you've come and the journey and the steps that you've had to take to get to where you are. And getting to do that for me, it was during opening ceremonies, was when I was waiting in the wind tunnel there, and they said, now introducing the United States of America, and we started our march. And it was like, dude, that's me. Like, I'm part of the United States of America, here to represent, to be an athlete, to go compete, and to walk into this huge stadium with all these people cheering and do a lap and then go sit down and watch this whole ceremony take place. It was, I got to live it out. I got to be a part of it. I didn't get to watch it on TV anymore. I was there.
Of course, what are some of your future plans in the sport of snowboarding?
That was another great question, actually. I like that you asked this one, because it's always important of what's next. And even though I'm still, very much focused on being an athlete and have my sights set on Cortina, Italy in 2026, it is important to know what you're going to do next. And for me, it's to be a part of this lifestyle as much as I can be. I don't know what exactly my life is going to look like after 2026, but I do know that I am still going to be living in the mountains and going to snowboard every day. And one of the biggest things for me is going to be coaching. I have started working on some coaching certifications, and actually have been training some athletes, trying to get them ready to go step up to the World Cup level in Canada and do their best there. And so to start on that now and early, I think is going to make it a nice and easy transition whenever my athletic career does come to an end, that I won't have to give up traveling the world and being on snow and standing at the top of the course and feeding on the excitement that comes with, a day of competition, I know that I'll always be around to see where everything goes and be a part of it.
What advice would you give future Paralympians looking to go to the Paralympics for the first time?
This I thought was a really interesting question because at first I didn't really feel qualified to answer it. I've only been to one Paralympic Games, and so what could I possibly have to offer to someone else who's going, to theirs, or if it's their first or their seventh, what could I even just remind them of that might help them? I felt like maybe this was a question that was better fit for someone who's been to multiple games, that has been through it multiple times, that knows what is important about it. And then I realized that even just going one time, it taught me a very important lesson that not only applies to the first time you go to the Paralympics, but when you decide to become an athlete. And it's this: do not place your self worth on results or how you do. It's an easy trap that a lot of athletes have fallen into, even their fourth or fifth time going to the games. They've done it for decades. They've been there so many times, and yet still it's easy for some of them to fall into the same trap of, you don't win a medal, you don't bring anything shiny home, you come home empty-handed, and it's hard not to feel like you're a failure, like maybe you messed up, like you could have done something better, or that you let someone down. What I learned after my experience with the Paralympics, it taught me that I have so much more worth to myself, and than what I did there, and it's not what defines me as a person. I did the math, right, because I was looking into this. I wanted to know how many minutes of time and training that went into me getting to the Paralympics, and I'll walk you through it briefly, right? So I started when I was 11 years old, and I turned 23 at the games during a practice day for bank slalom. So we know 23 minus 11, that's 12 years that it took me from deciding I was going to start racing to being at the top of the course in Beijing. 12 years, right? Little over a decade. You take that and you multiply that by 12 months, right? So it took me 144 months to get to the Paralympic Games. Well, then you take that a step farther with days. You multiply that times 30. 144 times 30, that's 4,320 days of work to get to the Paralympics. And then you take that a step farther, that's 103,000 hours. And then even past that, and I'll explain why, you multiply that times 60 and you get over 6 million minutes that it's taken me to start my career to get to the games. Over 6 million minutes. And the reason why I go to minutes is because I trained over 6,220,000 minutes for just two to prove that I deserve to be there. Over 6 million minutes for just two, where I had all cameras on me and the world watched. So effectively, I trained and worked for over 6,220,000 minutes for just two to prove to the world that I belonged there, that I was one of the best athletes, and that I could go fast. Just 2 minutes where all cameras and eyes were on me. And it took me a long time after getting home from the games to realize that those 2 minutes, while they were definitely the most important 2 minutes in my life, they are not the 2 minutes that make or break those 6 million. Those millions of minutes spent training for those two, they did so much more than just earn me 120 seconds of time where I got to race. They gave me a whole new family. They gave me so many opportunities. They gave me so much knowledge and wisdom in life. And I have so much to show for it than just how I did at the Paralympic Games. My results aren't everything. And while I didn't do as good as I would have hoped, I wanted to medal. I went into those games being tied for first, ranked overall in bank slalom. I was dual bank slalom world champion. I had definitely solidified myself as one to watch, and then didn't come within the top 10 at the games just because of circumstances and weather and snow conditions and a whole bunch of different stuff that all factored in. It was one day. It was just like any other race. And while it didn't go in my favor, it doesn't mean that I'm not a good athlete and that I haven't absolutely done my best. That was another big thing that helped me, is that when you do your best and you give it everything, there's not really a whole lot that you can have to regret. If you go out there and you just kind of do it to get it over with, when you walk away, you will always question what it would have been like if you had just tried harder. if you had just done better. But when you go out there and you trust that process that you've built into your life and into your training and into your racing, and you do your best, well, then good for you. You get to walk away from that knowing that that was your best, that you couldn't have done anything better, and that it's awesome that you were there in the first place. And I remember just that day that competition was done for me, and I was kind of realizing that I was going to come home with no medal. I wasn't sure how my family was going to, to welcome me, how some of my friends were. I was panicking about how people would view me after that competition. And then Keith just walks up to me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Yo, hey, just want to let you know, we're doing like a little party with all the athletes later tonight at the Genting Hotel. So just want to let you know, let all the other guys in the room know. So like, go tell Noah and Spivey and all them, just let them know, and then you'll take this bus to get there." And I was like, okay. And so we showed up, and sure enough, like all the snowboarders were just there in this lobby, and they were all just like having drinks together, hanging out, telling stories, talking amongst each other. And then we got to play this little game that Keith Gable and Owen Pick put together. And Owen Pick's one of the athletes on the British team. They did a trivia about like the history of Paralympic snowboarding. Like, where was the first World Cup and what year was it? When was the first time we had world champs? Where was the first Paralympic Games? Who were the medalists? Stuff like that. And then you could earn points. And so we like divvied up into teams. And so there was people from different nations on every different team. And then we did this little, it was the funniest thing. They looked through some of the athletes' Instagrams, their profiles, and found like baby pictures and like pictures of them working out from like behind or something. And so then they made this like collage of photos, and you had to guess who the athlete was. So like I just remember like seeing like some of these baby pictures and trying to figure out like who was it? Who is this little like chubby baby right here with the pink shirt? And I got to celebrate the Paralympics together with all of my competitors, and then take this big picture with all of us together at the end. And that's what drove home for me the meaning behind the Paralympics. Is it's not about who wins it. It's about who's there. It's if you've made it there, then nobody can take that away from you. You're a Paralympian for the rest of your life. And to be even a part of it is something that should always be, something that you're proud of. It should always be something that's celebrated. And to do it with my competitors as friends and family, that's the true meaning and the spirit of the Paralympics for me.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Great question. So you can find me on Instagram. That's where I am the most active. Just go follow me on there. I am the Mountain Miller. I also post everything from there to TikTok too, and every once in a while I'll do like fun little stories, opening it up to questions, stuff like that. So definitely go find me there, the Mountain Miller, all one word. And that would be sweet. I'd really appreciate a follow, because I'm trying to grow that, and always trying to put out content that's just going to be entertaining, going to keep you guys focused, and also just spreading information about what I do, about Paralympics, about cerebral palsy, and trying to educate as many people as I can on that.
Thank you again, Zachary Miller, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as a U.S. Paralympian snowboarder.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Zachary Miller, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.